I listened to the reel that got posted. I remember thinking, that's not how I remember it. I was watching the race, so I think I know better.
Hello and welcome back to the Weekly Freestyle, episode 55. Today we've got an absolute bumper show for you, including a look ahead to the 2025 season and beyond. For the intro, I've actually not got Tom with me. I've got a much upgraded substitute. I'm joined by Mr. Luke Withers, the birthday man himself, so I thought it would be appropriate to get him on nice and early and we can have a little catch up because I couldn't have a catch up by myself, could I, Luke? How are you and happy birthday?
Thank you very much, mate. No, all good, all good. It was a really good weekend. Nice to have you, Tom, and many other of the lads come through from all over the country, actually. So no, I'm doing all right, thanks.
And for those of you who don't know, Luke Withers is he's our coaching go-to, our coaching expert and masters guru, I'd say. And you actually did a couple of events. Was it a couple of weeks ago at K2 Crawley? I saw you absolutely smash a 200 freestyle. Are you recovered from those events, Luke?
Nearly, nearly. Yeah, it's my first time competing in I think 3 years and first time long course in 6 years. The first time just being in a long course pool in 6 years. So it was a bit of a shock to the system that first race, but I did 50 all the way up to 800 and no, it was really good fun. I'm definitely gonna have to look to enter some more races soon.
Love that. And have you got any advice for maybe someone, whatever age, who's been out of the pool for a little bit, is thinking about, I'd quite like to sort of dip my toe back in literally and do a race. Is there any kind of advice you've got for those people that might be just that one step away from having that race entry and then actually getting in and diving into the pool?
Yeah, I think ultimately you've just got to be brave. You've just got to trust yourself that you'll be fine. Because if you enter it, even when you're not ready, it'll just give you that goal in training that, when you're turning up to training, why you're there. And if you can try and do it with a couple of mates, like that's what I did. So then we're all doing it together. It just gives you that bit of camaraderie around it as well. So try and do it with someone and just set that goal well in advance. Then you've got nowhere to hide when it does come to race day, is what I would say.
Yeah, I think that works in a lot of context, doesn't it? Whether it be a goal you have that's work related or kind of any hobbies. It doesn't have to be swimming. It could be anything you're doing. If you set maybe a target, it's kind of the way it forces you to prep and get ready. But we always have a catch up on the weekly freestyle. This is obviously our catch up section. And now one thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I think it's something that everyone can relate to, and I've called it the curry kerfuffle. Do you maybe want to expand a little bit about, where our evening, I'm not going to say it went wrong, but where it hit a little bit of a bump in the road on Saturday night?
Yeah, just a little bit of a speed bump or so. Yeah, it was all right. It started off okay. We went for a drink before going to a curry, which was booked for 6:30. I think we were all at the curry, only no more than
You've got
20
too many
away.
friends, Luke.
That was a bit of the problem.
You've
Yeah,
got too many friends.
there was 21 of us at the curry, but I did tell them, I rang them and said, table for 20. There was only one extra, which I thought was fine, and they didn't, yeah, they were absolutely fine about that. But I think even trying to order, like I'd go over to them and say, "Oh, can we get like this many beers to the table, this many J2Os for the table, that sort of thing." And they were almost it almost felt like they were annoyed that I was trying to make their life easier. And I was like, "Oh, okay." It's a bit weird. And then I don't even know what time food actually came out in the end, but it came out almost like Wagamama's. That was the other problem. It was
I
like,
think this was the main issue. I think so. Basically, we were all sat down, weren't we? We were having a good old time, celebrating your good self. And as you said, you'd let people know that there was a big booking, which I mean, I understand it's tricky to get 20 chicken kormas out at one go, isn't it? And the plainest meals you could have, 20 of the same thing. And I think time went by, which is all fine. But I think the problem is eventually when the food started coming out, as you were saying, in Wagamama style, people were having rice with their naan. That, where was that? Where was the korma? We were waiting for onion bhajis. It just came out a little bit scattergun, which I think, you know, after you've waited for 2 hours, to be honest, Luke, it's not acceptable.
mm, I do agree. It got to that point where it's just like, hang on a minute, mate. They've had their food for 20 minutes and I've got rice and nothing else. What is going on, lad? So it was a bit unfortunate. But ultimately, when the food did eventually come out, it was all right. And they were kind enough to knock some money off the bill for us. So one of those ones where it wasn't the end of the world. Everyone got fed ultimately. But it was just, I think may have to look elsewhere next time I have a big, well, if there is a next time for a really big booking like that.
Yeah, possibly. I think as long as the real winners in this situation were the people that hadn't paid their bill, sort of the moment that the negotiation to lower the price was made, because a few people that had actually paid the original price. So a few
Had they?
people, including my cousin, were £3 worse off. But no, it was a fun weekend, and I thought it was only right to get you on. One of my co-hosts right now is he's actually away in the Middle East playing golf. No, he's doing lots of good stuff, sort of with the swim school. So I was just a little bit worried that we wouldn't get him on in time. So that's why, we've got a really, really good episode planned. But Luke, it's been wonderful having you on for the catch up. I feel as though we needed someone there, someone with expertise to just explain the curry kerfuffle. But now I think it's time I let you go as I jump into our swimming news of the week.
The TWF.
Dive in. We're jumping into swimming news of the week. And as we discussed last week with Tom, he actually told a story about, I think it was back at counties, I think maybe it was regionals, but it was a race. And one of his competitors, as he said, actually ended up in a different lane. The two had a tussle and he went on to win sort of his first medal at that standard. But shock. It's a real saga. The messages have been pouring in. And I've actually got someone who was there at the race. We're going to change their voice. Could be a he, could be a she, could be another. We're going to actually anonymize their voice to protect their identity. But anonymous swimmer, listener, coach, whatever you are, could you just sum up sort of the lane saga from your side of things, please?
Okay. I was there at that famous event, Counties, at a famous magnet, and I was at the ends of a certain Mr. Dean's lane. I remember cheering on whilst this is all going on, and I listened to the reel that got posted. I remember thinking, that's not how I remember it. I was watching the race, so I think I know better. Can I just
say, anonymous listener, before you go on, are you saying that Mr. Dean is lying? He's not telling the true picture of what actually happened. Is that the the level of seriousness we're at here?
I think he has exaggerated the truth in certain places, and also to slightly got the truth wrong in other places. I wouldn't go as far to say he's a liar. Okay, I think he might be a fibber, is what I would say.
And to be fair, if there's one thing you'd say about Tom, exaggerating the truth is something that does not always happen. He's never one to embellish a story. He's never one to. He one thing he'll never do, and I will get this out of the way. He's never one to tell a story to you 2 weeks before, and then you'd hear the story again 2 weeks later. That is something that he never does. So it does surprise me that you're making this claim, anonymous listener. But please do go on.
Though he got the swimmers right. It was himself. It was then Luke Thomas. It was then Albert Caravas.
What a name!
The great name, Cypriot, believe it or not. And what I believe my memory was, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm definitely closer than Mr. Dean. Luke Thomas dives in. His goggles fill up with water. He swims the fly leg.
That's a key detail, by the way. That's a key detail that Tom didn't state.
The goggles fill up with water, so Luke Thomas is swimming barely blind at this point. He does the fly leg flies. It's pretty easy to swim by the fly with straight legs. You lift your head up out of the water. On the backstroke, he does the transition from fly to back, no problem. It was then, this is where Tom got this bit right. The backstroke to breaststroke was where it all went wrong. He does the complicated turn. He pushes off in the wrong lane. Albert is a fair bit behind Luke at this point, and Thomas in second place. Albert in third. Then what happens is Luke Thomas goes underwater, does his breaststroke underwater phase, manages to kick Albert in the head, whilst he's doing his first couple of strokes. But Albert just says, told me afterwards, he was like, why the hell is there someone else in my lane?
You would think that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So he just carried on.
So they've actually not had a kerfuffle as such. They've not really, because what Tom suggests is that they'd come to blows and they possibly stopped. But you're saying that's inaccurate information.
That is inaccurate because I can tell you for a fact, I'll have to find the sheets from the counter results for the R archive somewhere. Albert did finish the race legally, and you're not allowed, and I know that I was written the rules, but I think somewhere in the rules it's, you can't fight midway through a race and then go on to finish said race. And so, Albert did finish the race, but what then happened was him to be in the wrong lane. Luke Thomas this is. The swimmers at the other end of the pool, who were in the lane next to me cheering on Tom, managed to grab him whilst he was doing a turn, breaststroke. He grabbed
Luke Thomas, who
was in the wrong lane.
Yeah,
still
keep going.
swimming at this point, which is also crucial information that was missed last week.
Exactly. So he carried on swimming in the wrong lane, but they managed to grab him at the shallow end of the pool. Luke Thomas looks all confused, stands up, empties his goggles, turns round, realises he's in the wrong lane. He then jumps back in his lane and finishes the race, by which point Tom is now in the lead and goes on to take the massive win. Wow.
That is news to me. It might be news to the listeners as well. But it's one thing that's certainly true is that it's completely different to what Tom said last week. And I think actually the saga continues. You know, this is another point of view, but I think I need to hear from the people within the race. So maybe in future episodes, I need to get them on to really discuss what happened and actually to confirm whether Luke Thomas did indeed kick Albert in the head. But anonymous listener, I can't thank you enough. It's been wonderful managing to track you down, and thank you actually for reaching out to the show to make this really crucial point. I will let you go on with your day, safe in the knowledge that you've put the truth and the story right. TWF.
Topic of the week.
Right, and now we're jumping into our TWF topic of the week as we look ahead to the incoming 2020-2025 season. I am very excited to be joined by Charlie Harris. For those who don't know, Charlie is an all-round good guy, Falkirk FC fanatic, but probably, and most importantly to this podcast within a swimming context, he's host of Aquapod, and he's both a Scottish and British swimming expert. Charlie, welcome to the Weekly Freestyle. And how are you?
Yeah, good, Alex. Appreciate the shout out there, and mentioning Falkirk FC as well. Scotland's biggest club, so absolutely fantastic. And yeah, really appreciate you inviting me on to have a bit of chat about swimming, and kind of hopefully just about sort of some of the bits that I do and sort of wider Scottish swimming, and looking ahead to this season as well, which looks to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We've obviously had a little chat before coming on, and there's plenty of us to get through. But yeah, I was scrolling through your Instagram last night. I know you're a biggest fan of Scottish football, but also I know you're a big club fan. And I was like, I couldn't quite see the badge. I was I was like, imagine if I get this wrong. Imagine if I tee you up as a fan of
unbelievable.
of a club or not. So we've got off on the right foot, which is good. But as I mentioned, you're a man of many talents, but one of your key interests is podcasting. So I feel as though we're quite similar in that respect. And actually, you host the Aquapod. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Because for those who may not have heard of it, I think it'd be I've listened to it. I know it's a great listen, so it might be something that people will be interested to hear more about.
Nice one. Yeah, so I work for Scottish Swimming. It's kind of marketing and communications, and one of my sort of the things I focus on now is the Aquapod. So it's my baby a little bit. I kind of came up with the concept and rolled with it. Sort of lucky enough to have quite a very supportive team around about me to allow me to do that. But sort of set up around about a year ago with the aim of not only being a swimming podcast, but sort of looking at other sports as well under the aquatic umbrella. So diving, open water, masters, and artistic swimming and water polo as well. So we're still to sort of reach a few of those, but it is still early days in the podcast, and we're hoping to kind of branch out a little bit more, and there's some plans around that. But yeah, it's been a really good experience so far, and been some great episodes, great chats. Like I say, across the sport. So we've had divers on, we've had Faye Rogers that won Paralympic gold's been on, had our outgoing CEO going on. So been lots of great chat, and hopefully people just, have enjoyed it to date, and hopefully they kind of come along with the ride a little bit and learn a little bit more about some of the other sports and some of the stories within that as well. Because I think we're quite keen to push that yeah, swimming is the biggest sport, but actually there's lots of other stories, and it's not just about performance swimming as well. There's, you know, lots of different aspects. There's learning to swim, there's club swimming, and there's a whole kind of volunteering pathway as well that exists within swimming and other sports. So hopefully it's an outlet. It's quite a broad outlet, and like I say, it's still developing as well. But you know, we're really excited about the kind of prospect of it, and hoping to kind of do a little bit more this year and more episodes. Sort of at the minute, it's been an episode a month, which has been good to kind of set it up. But we're looking to up that a little bit, kind of going into this year and beyond as well.
No, it sounds great, and yeah, I've listened to a few episodes, and yeah, I can't sort of recommend it enough. I was just thinking, so you mentioned there that there's a real push in the world of sort of aquatics because it's not, as you say, just swimming. Is there any kind of stories or people that you've kind of found out a little bit more when you've kind of dug into their stories? Is there anyone that kind of stands out for you that may not be in that swimming space?
I think just there is so many, to be quite honest. Like if I'm thinking of some of the episodes we've done, um, we had on Vicky Tomlinson, who was Britain's only diving judge at the Olympics. So it's actually a very prestigious kind of position, voluntary position, but she works up in Edinburgh, kind of with the diving club in Edinburgh Leisure. But she's so experienced, and kind of hearing about that, and you know, her story to be, you know, get to that level and be at the Olympics and being one of the, I think it's one of only 8 European judges, the only British judge there. It's really interesting, and actually it's something that's possible, and it's not, you know, I think a lot of people see the Olympics as something that's quite maybe unattainable, if you're not an Olympic athlete like Tom, or a Duncan Scott, or whatever. But actually there's opportunities for people. So I thought that was a really interesting one. And in a sport that is maybe, you know, doesn't get as much limelight. I think it is more now, and especially with the likes of kind of Tom Daly that's come through. You know, everyone knows Tom. Um, but there's definite opportunities in sports like diving, and more so now as well, like artistic swimming. It's been a real breakthrough last summer with the first ever British artistic swimming medals. So hopefully we see that in that sport as well. And yeah, we're trying to get kind of volunteers on from artistic swimming to kind of supplement that, because I think, or we think that there's real opportunities for people kind of in that volunteering space. But yeah, there's just been some great stories. We're keen to push the kind of learn to swim angle as well. I know that's a lot of work that you guys do. It's maybe slightly different north of the border because we've got kind of a dedicated framework, sort of Scottish Women Learn to Swim framework. But we've had bits and pieces around about that as well, and that's really important to the work we do. So yeah, it's like I say, really broad, but there's hopefully some really great stories that kind of permeate through that as well. And we're keen to kind of dig them up and really showcase people that work hard, whether that's in a paid role or within a voluntary role, or athletes as well. So some really interesting stuff, hopefully, for people to listen to.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point you make there. I think, firstly, the fact that, you know, if we're not all a Duncan Scott or a Katie Shanahan, there's hope for all of us. That's including you and I, Charlie. You know, we could be in the Olympics
100%.
in our own capacity. But actually, the more serious point there is focusing the spotlight on the people that aren't necessarily in the pool. As you say, they could be behind the blocks or in a diving context. They could be behind a desk and in synchro swimming as well, because obviously that side of aquatics is a much more judged angle, isn't it? You need people with
Absolutely.
you know, technical expertise, but also kind of that professional opinion within those kind of other aquatic sports. And actually, as you say, and the stories that you're uncovering, you're probably doing a little bit more serious work than we are doing on the weekly freestyle. But it's so important to, yeah, shine that spotlight, because actually, if you don't have people that are outside of the pool, whether that be, yeah, parents, volunteers, people with an interest in the sport, then the sport doesn't run. So, you know, actually, if someone has an interest in aquatics, and you know, maybe that elite pathway of performance isn't there for you, actually, why don't you maybe consider, yeah, going down that judging route, that voluntary route, that coaching route, kind of, you know, the psychology and all those volunteered positions that, you know, really make the events what they are.
Absolutely. And to be brutally honest, aquatics in this country wouldn't run without volunteers. It's probably 90 to 95% volunteer led in terms of numbers of people, be that coaching, like you say, or volunteering at events, and loads of different guises, and that is across the sports as well. So and especially in like something like diving, you need actually, sort of volunteers that are really knowledgeable from a technical point of view as well, that are doing like judging, for example.
Yeah, you can't just turn up on poolside and judge a
No.
dive, can you?
No, you can, you maybe could,
Thumbs up.
you could have a little look across. All right, okay, it's 7, right, okay. But actually, like, that podcast was really interesting because, for a layman, you can understand the scoring system, and actually it takes away the highest and the lowest. So if you did get somebody that didn't know that well, then their scores would probably get taken away anyway. But that's just an example of, of so many across Scotland, across the rest of the UK, that dedicate like so much time, their weekends, after school, for the good of the sport, and it simply wouldn't exist without them. So I think that's really like what we're trying to push from that volunteering side, but also just in general, like, the hard work that people put in, is quite often unnoticed, and hopefully we can shine a light on that, for people as well.
Definitely. I think maybe there's a joint podcast idea where we go and follow
Yeah.
some of the key volunteers at one of the many events that are on the horizon. And talking of events, one of the key reasons we've got you on, Charlie, as I mentioned, you're a Scottish swimming expert, but also a British expert in my eyes. As we're into 2025 now, February, the year's already flying by. What are kind of the key events that you think that, I guess, swimming and aquatic fans should look out for in the months ahead?
I mean, I think you guys have spoken before about Edinburgh International, which is always a big meet on the calendar. Obviously doesn't really mean anything from a competitive point of view. For the guys at the top level anyway, it's a great warm up meet. The time of the calendar is Edinburgh's a great city, and the Comic Pool's a great venue. But what it does do is it gives you quite a good indication of where people might be leading into the British Championships and the trials for what's going to be the World Champs. So I think that's definitely one to look out for. It's one that's always live streamed, so you can watch it live or back. And there should be some quite interesting kind of races going on there, I would have thought. There's always kind of the men's freestyle, and that's one that you would have focused on before. You can see where people are people kind of maybe playing about with tactics. Are they working on certain things? The racing's never as quick, which can be quite interesting. So sometimes it comes down to a bit more about the actual race as opposed to people going for times, etc. So that's good. And what I like about the Edinburgh International as well is you do, because it's in Scotland, we get quite a lot of young athletes that are in and about the top, the elite from Scotland, but also because you get guys from down south and from elsewhere in Europe, you see that mix, which I think is really, really important actually for like young athletes to see that pathway is there, and you can get there as well. So it's always a good meet, and it's one that I'd recommend people to come to as well. There'll be tickets available. And yeah, it's certainly one that I'd recommend, Alex. If you ever wanted to come up to Scotland, then Edinburgh International is a great one. Scottish women don't run it. It's a bit of an outlier. It sort of runs itself. There's a committee, but I think Aquatics GB and Scottish women feed into it in different kind of ways. But that's certainly one to look out for leading into trials.
Yeah, just on the Edinburgh meet, yeah, I think you make some great points there. I think you're doing a really good job selling it as well. You don't need to tell me to come to Edinburgh twice.
Yeah.
So I'll be on that train. And I think one thing that's interesting with Edinburgh, as you say, it's early season, but I think one thing that could be quite a nice dynamic is it's maybe not quite as serious as some of those other events, obviously later in the season. So I'm sure you'll go on to talk about some other events later in the year, but maybe you will have been, and I haven't been to Edinburgh. Does it feel slightly different? Is it a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere, and does that maybe create a slightly different feeling for people watching and also spectating?
It's very, very, very relaxed. So compared to, like, for example, well, you were at British Champs last year, Olympic trials. I mean, for like
That's
the two,
the one I turn up for, mate.
yeah, that's the yeah. You're a sort of a glory hunter really when it comes to swim. But not only joking. Yeah, it's totally different. So compared to like the 200 freestyle at Champs, in the last day when the crowd's been built up and there's real tension in the air. I think real nerves and stuff. Not saying there isn't that in Edinburgh. It's definitely a lot more kind of measured, and actually, I think it's quite important to have that. It's just the pressure's off. Let's see what you can do. Go out there and put a real good baseline. Maybe it would be good to have other opportunities that have that crowd. And I think you saw at British Champs last year, some people really struggled with the crowd and maybe played on their mind a bit, and the times weren't quite where people wanted them to be, or people actually missed the team, that you would expect to be there. So it's good from that perspective. It really gives a quite relaxed atmosphere. You can see where you are, but also, maybe it would be good to see if there are other opportunities to ramp up crowds and things. But it's a great meet, like I say, and provides a really good opportunity for people to swim.
Yeah, what date is that? Is that coming up soon?
Yeah, so it's mid-March. I believe it's like the 14th to the 16th or something, like round about that weekend. I would need to double check, but yeah, three full days of swimming, three finals. And the good thing about Edinburgh International as well is they do skins, which is quite exciting. So sort of in the 50 events, you get 8 start, and then it goes down to 4, and then it goes down to 2, and then obviously end up with a winner. And after the first start, I think it's something like 90 seconds till the next one goes, and it's not started by a starter. It's just a buzzer goes off.
It's a random bleep, isn't it?
It's a random bleep, so you need to be ready, which is really, really exciting to watch. And ends up with some quite interesting results and things as well. So yeah, definitely an exciting one, and good kind of leading into British Champs where things get a lot more serious for swimmers.
Yeah, and yeah, we've spoken about skins a few times actually, and it's, as you say, it's an interesting one because it's that balance of the sprinters versus the slightly more longer distance swimmers, and where they kind of meet in the middle and who falls off first. But yeah, I think Edinburgh's a lovely build up, and then obviously I think everyone probably knows a fair bit about Champs. Obviously, it's usually in April time, and obviously it's the key selector for the major meets in the summer. But I think we spoke about, obviously we've got the World Champs coming up. Do you think that's the kind of the biggest event on the horizon, or are there maybe a few other events in the background that we're kind of glazing over?
I think this year it's obviously the key international meet, isn't it? Long course anyway, so it'll be interesting from the perspective of, it's a non-Olympic year. We had a World Champs last year, slightly different kind of focus for people. I know a lot of the British guys maybe didn't, really target it, but they went as an opportunity to race. I think this year it'll be different, and I think it'll be fast as well. We saw the Olympics last year. Maybe it wasn't quite as quick as we were expecting. But then you look at the kind of world short course in December, the speed of the swimming. Now, there can be a lot of factors to that. Obviously, it's short course, so quite often the world records are sort of comparatively slower. It was a quick pool in Budapest compared to the slow pool in Paris.
Very slow pool in Paris. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about it. Was it a factor potentially? Was it more psychological potentially? But I think Singapore, by the sounds of it, it will be a quick pool. And you've got, the likes of Leon Marchand, Gretchen Walsh, internationally, Summer McIntosh, who are at the tops of their game. So actually, it'll be really, really interesting to see how quick some of those guys can go. And from a British perspective, there'll be people trying to get on teams for the first time. I think we spoke a little bit off camera that there's opportunities for people. There's people that have retired, particularly kind of like looking at sort of women's freestyle. Anna Hopkins, such a big name, so there's an opening there for somebody, at least on kind of a relay. And I think you see within that space, there's people going faster and faster and kind of challenging those that are on teams. So it'll be interesting actually to see the makeup of the team. Will it be a little bit more kind of will there be younger faces? Will there be different faces? I think that's always good as well. You want to keep it fresh and push for LA, because that's now really the main focus. And it'll definitely be an interesting kind of meet over the summer, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is all in the context of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess all these major champs are slightly out of kilter off the back of kind of the COVID years. And you mentioned we have sort of, I know World Indoors tend to be a little bit sort of earlier in the season, as it looks. But yeah, I guess it's not normal to have world champs off the back of Olympics, is it? Or is that something that can happen?
Yeah, I think we're actually now back in that kind of cycle. So it's every 2 years, and it's like non-Olympic years. But obviously what can happen is that, the back of an Olympic year, you might not get quite the event you're looking for. But I think actually off this one, we could be looking for some really fast swimming now that the shackles are off. The nerves of Olympics are away a little bit as well, which I think would have played a big part in some of the results. But now people can really go out there and do their swimming. Most of these guys will have been at world champs before that are really going for quick times. So it definitely will be interesting, and it's I think it's a good opportunity for people before 2026, when we've got the Commonwealth Games, which for me is the most exciting thing kind of coming up.
Let's get on to it. I know you've been waiting to speak about it.
Yeah,
Commonwealth Games in Scotland, in Glasgow. You must be buzzing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and I think it's really good that's happened. Given that there was a chance that it wasn't going to happen, I think it was quite a real possibility that we were going to lose the Commonwealth Games. So the fact that sort of Glasgow's has come in, there's obviously a bit of a deal going on, I think, with the Australian Commonwealth Committee, which is good. It's good that the games will go on. And yeah, it all sounds really, really positive. Obviously, going to be a smaller games, and slightly disappointingly, there's going to be no diving, which was in the games last time. But given it's in Glasgow, there's no diving facility, which is really unfortunate. But I think we have to be excited about the Commonwealth Games. Memories of Glasgow 2014, which saw some massive victories for Scottish athletes. And British athletes kind of wider than that as well. You saw kind of Petey breaking out there. It's Duncan Scott's first international meet, first
That's
medals.
Crazy to think, isn't it?
Which is crazy to think. So it's actually really nice for him as well. I would imagine kind of coming back to Glasgow, and he's already, I think, Scotland's most decorated Commonwealth athlete. So opportunity for more medals probably for Duncan. Kate Shanahan, that was where she grew up. She swam for City of Glasgow, so her going back there, won medals in Birmingham. So I think there's some really exciting stories there, certainly from a Scottish point of view. And we're starting to get really excited and starting to kind of gear up plans, sort of going into next year. And for us, that's kind of definitely the main goal as Scottish women, because that's what we can influence a lot more of that compared to sort of British side of things. So yeah, definitely very exciting, and hopefully people feel excited about it as well. From a kind of, I don't know what you think, Alex, but from maybe an English point of view, I'm not English myself, obviously, so it's got, I think there's kind of a unique kind of thing, a Scottish point of view for the Commonwealth Games, because it is so rare that people get to compete just as Scotland, and kind of swimming, athletics, etc. So and it's going to be in Scotland. So but I don't know what you think in terms of from a sort of English point of view as well.
Yeah, and this could lead us quite nicely onto a little game I've got for you, Charlie. But yeah,
Nice,
I do
nice.
think it's a unique chance for, I think, people, especially within sort of the aquatic space, and also a number of other sports where usually they would just be competing under the GB umbrella, which obviously I think some people, well, I think most people would probably enjoy that, but actually I think it's a real step up, isn't it, to actually compete for your country. And I guess in certain sports the two nations have quite a rivalry, so actually I think in our world of swimming it's a friendly rivalry, but it's certainly nice to see those swimmers go head to head and actually on different teams. I think it's nice to hear different anthems as well, purely from that point of
100%.
view. I've always really enjoyed hearing Jerusalem, and Tom and I have spoken about this. We think it should go be the one that we hear more, but obviously that's in an English sense. So no, really
Of course.
looking forward to that. And I think maybe this is a good chance to end on our weekly freestyle section.
The weekly
weekly
freestyle.
freestyle.
Anything goes.
As long as your turns are legal. So yeah, Scotland versus England.
Here we
Charlie, it's
go.
one of the world's oldest rivalries. I've done my research for you. I think it's known as the old enemies. And the first battle was in the 16th century. So there's a lot of history there, and that feeling of rivalry is certainly not lost in the pool when it comes
No, no.
to the Commonwealth Games. So obviously representing both sides, but I want to put you under the microscope a little bit, and I've got a little game for you where I've got three English swimmers, three
Yeah.
Scottish swimmers, and I want you to rank them on both sides. So one from both countries has three Commonwealth golds, one has two, and then the last person on both sides has one gold. So everyone can play at home. Does that sort of make sense?
Makes sense to me. Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that this is going to go okay, but I'm slightly worried. But yeah, we'll give it a go.
Well, the thing is, you say you're a Scottish swimming expert. You're actually dropping some international swimming chat throughout this chat. So
Okay.
actually, I think
Okay.
we need to upgrade you again to
Right.
to
Oh,
world
God's sake.
expert.
Yeah.
So next time you
Good.
come on, I'm going to have to change your introduction. But no, the three swimmers from the Scottish side, we'll start with Hannah Miley,
Okay.
Duncan Scott, and Ross Murdoch. So one of those has one has two, one has three. And then on the other side, and I will forgive you if you make a mistake on the English side, but not on the Scottish side. From the English side, we've got Fran Halsall, Siobhan Marie O'Connor, and of course we've got Tom Dean. But how many gold medals do each of those people have? Now I'm going to give you a little bit of time to have a little think about that. I'm going to maybe do a little bit of background reading. I've actually got Hannah Miley up in front of me right now. She's not actually here, but I've got her Wikipedia page. And
Yeah.
to give you a clue, she actually did win a gold medal in Glasgow. So we were chatting about Glasgow and names that were made there, but yeah, Hannah Miley was one that picked up a gold in Glasgow. But I guess the question for you, Charlie, is did she pick up any more? Have you got kind of any initial thoughts on your workings out?
Yeah. I think yeah. Hannah obviously won the 400 medal in Glasgow. Um. So and I think I was a bit younger here, but I think in Delhi she also won the 400 medley. Um.
Interesting. I'm not going to confirm or deny
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Which was obviously quite a famous Commonwealth Games, sort of, or infamous Commonwealth Games for a
Mhm.
number of reasons. Um,
What about the English side of things? You've got any initial thoughts? And then I think we'll start with the English team, and then we'll go to the Scottish side to put you under real
okay,
pressure.
right, okay. Um, I'm a little bit more stuck here.
Is there anyone who you're not sure on?
I'm not sure in all three yet, to be honest, but
Okay.
I think Dino had. Now, if I'm thinking back to Birmingham, he had lots of medals, didn't he? I think maybe 7 medals.
With Dino, that there's a lot of medals because
Yeah,
he likes to talk about the medals, but I'm not bothered about how many. I'm bothered about one
the
specific
goals,
color.
the goals. So I think that's probably a bit of a clue. That a lot of them were silver and bronze, because I think there's a lot of relay medals in there, and Dino had quite a busy schedule. I think Tom Dean only has one
Okay, we'll
one gold.
lock that answer in. So obviously that leaves you going back to who else we've got here. So obviously that leaves you Siobhan and Fran.
Yeah,
A little bit
yeah,
on Siobhan, obviously coached by the same coach as Tom. So if you're saying that Tom
okay,
has one,
yeah.
that would mean that she is the more successful athlete in a Commonwealth space and arguably overall. And I guess Dave McNulty would be more pleased with how Siobhan has performed for him.
Yeah.
So
I'm really not sure, but I know, like, I know Siobhan's an extremely successful swimmer. I think I'm gonna go three. I'm gonna go three
okay,
for Siobhan,
okay.
and then that obviously leaves Fran as two. That's real guessing work. Tom. I mean, yeah, I know Tom's got a lot of medals, but I just don't think there was many golds. So that's my work in there. So the other
That's
two
a
kind of
fair
come out.
assumption. No,
Yeah.
that's fine. That's fine. We'll leave those two there. We'll come back
Okay.
to them. But I
Okay.
think this is the real one. If you make an error here on Ross, Hannah, or Duncan, I think there's gonna be hell to
Okay.
pay when you get back into the office. So yeah, let's start with. Who do you want to start with? Should we go up the tree?
I'll go. I'll start sort of with one.
Okay.
I think Ross has only got one
Okay.
Commonwealth gold, which is obviously
Still a special gold.
famously the 200 breaststroke, winning against fellow Scott Michael Jamieson. in Glasgow as well, which was sort of shocked the Commonwealth, or really the swimming world, because it was quite a big result at the time, British record, and a really famous kind of moment from Ross where he just looked really shocked that he'd done it. So that was brilliant. I think I think Petey won the 100 breast in Glasgow, and then Ross on the Gold Coast. I think it was silver in the 200 breast, and then I think in Birmingham. Well, I know in Birmingham was two bronzes, but obviously came back from retirement.
Yeah, that's some story. Some story.
I'm locking in Ross on one, and then I think Hannah Miley. Although maybe this could be like a sort of leading one, couldn't it? I'm just thinking Duncan 100 freestyle on the Gold Coast. Yeah, okay. And he won the 200 medley and 200 freestyle, didn't he, in Birmingham? So I think Hannah, you've got 2 400 medley golds. She's got 2 golds, and then I think Duncan on 3. I'm locking it in.
Right, those are your answers locked in. Charlie, thank you very much for playing the game. You have absolutely smashed the Scottish side of things, which is wonderful. You know, displaying a lot of really nice expertise there, and a few stories as well, which I think our listeners will enjoy.
Nice one.
Slightly worse news on the English side. But you did get Tom bang on with just the one, one goal for him. But actually, it was Siobhan with 2 and Fran Housel with 3.
Not bad,
with
though.
3.
Not bad.
Let me just check where Fran won her medals. I wonder if she managed to get herself one in Delhi. No, so Fran, yeah, she managed to get one in Delhi and 2 at Glasgow, all in 2 in 50-meter butterfly and 1 in 50-meter freestyle. So yeah, there we go. I hope everyone enjoyed that. Charlie, you've been wonderful to have on the podcast. Thank you for your time, and also thank you very much for playing the game. Hopefully tensions between the two nations are still on solid ground, as hopefully we can catch up in the remainder of the season, whether that be in Scotland, down in London, or who knows, maybe out for the World Champs. Is it in Singapore?
Singapore, yeah.
Singapore,
I don't know if I'll be there, but I'll be in London, so I'll definitely catch up with you there if you're planning to be down. So
perfect. I'll see you then. Cheers, Charlie.
Cheers.